Hello, Robert J. Hunt. Welcome to the Doing CX Right show.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Great to be here.
I'm excited for our conversation. It's different than the others, and my audience will understand why shortly. But before we get to the heart of it, please, Robert, tell people, who are you? What do you do for a living?
I run CEO peer groups here in the DFW area. I've been doing it for 11 years. And we get together every month and we work on the challenges that business owners face in running their business, most of which is personal because it's people, it's relationships, and then all of our personal lives coming to work with us every day. And so we spend a lot of time talking about the challenges, the isolation of being the primary decision maker for the company and the challenges they faced. And we work together to help each other find solutions and accountability, which is where this book was, its impetus was from. And I have been married to my beautiful wife, Kathy, for 25 years. She's my best friend and the joy of my life. And I have two adult children who are Lauren and James. And we live in Frisco, Texas.
Well, that is a beautiful summary. Now, before we do get to the professional deep talk here, going back in time to know you a little bit more, my favorite question, which is, if you could go back in time to your younger 20-year-old self, Robert, what would you tell him that you, based on what you know now?
Find your purpose. I think I spent a lot of years just having a job, just doing what everyone expected me to do. I didn't have any vision for my life. And vision only comes from knowing your purpose. And so when I work with business owners, one of the first things we have to get to is, what's your purpose? What's this all about? And then once they know their why or their purpose or what gets them out of bed, then we can create a vision of what it will look like if we chase it. And then we can decide how to do it and the way we do it. And that same thing is with my life. I think I wasted a lot of years just looking for a paycheck or just trying to get a promotion, because isn't that what you're supposed to do? And I left out the significance of, God's uniquely created and wired me to be a certain kind of person. And if I just exist, I'm leaving that behind. And so I think knowing my purpose and chasing that would have been the advice I give myself.
All right, then. Let's talk about doing customer experience right. What does that mean to you when I say those words?
That's such an impossible task these days because there's so much involved in the customer experience. From the second they think about something to the moment they find it on the World Wide Web till the time they leave and use it. There's so much that goes into that. And we're not engaging our employees to the level that generates a good result. And we get frustrated that our marketing department can't seem to build a brand that woos people in to randomly come buy from us or put up with us. I mean, the whole point about marketing and relationships and sales is that you get a second chance. Because if you have a mistake, because everyone makes mistakes, then the customer will love you enough to go, it's okay. And they give you grace. It's the difference between Apple and Dell. And if my iPhone blew up next to my face, I would think it must have been Microsoft Outlook caused it to corrupt. I would not be mad at Apple. They could do no wrong. But if I had a Dell and it ran slow, I'd say, this piece of junk, there's no patience. We've come to this experience where it's not the brand, it's the whole journey that makes us want to care and give a second chance and give grace to products. And so I don't think we spend enough energy and focus helping our employees understand what part the role they play in making successful customer experience.
So besides that, with the employees, there are, many challenges that get in the way of doing CX right. What stands out in current day, the biggest problem, in your opinion, causing customer frustration?
Not just because I wrote a book on accountability, but I'll say it's accountability. Because when you think about it, a lot of times employees do something, but they're not doing the right thing. There's a difference between responsibility and accountability. Responsibility is I was at my desk, I answered the phone, I took down the note, I submitted it to sales, I put in a process to go look at the problem. Accountability is thinking, if I was the person on the other end of the phone, how would I want to be treated? If I had a problem and I needed help, what kind of response would I want? There's a difference between doing something and doing the thing that accomplishes the role you play and the outcome we're looking for. And I don't think we're teaching a spirit of accountability with our employees.
Mm.
Here's a list of things to do. Do it. It's kind of like the Delta employees that dragged the guy off the airplane. You remember that a few years ago, where
Yeah.
he was there on the plane and they had to tell him to get off because of the way the ticketing was, and he wouldn't do it. So they dragged him off the plane and people filmed it. They ended up paying millions of dollars in lawsuit fees and horrible PR. But the people who were on the flight did what the document says to do. They were responsible. Step one, you do this. Step two, you do this. Step three. And if it doesn't work, you call the police and they drag them off the plane. They did what they were told to do. That's responsible. Accountable is go, look, this doesn't make sense. If I was on the plane, I wouldn't want to be dragged off the plane. I wouldn't want to be told you have to get off. I'd want some other solution. And I guarantee you, if they had told the people on the plane, we'll give you $10,000 cash to get off the seat, give up one of your seats so this guy can stay on, someone would have got off that plane. But instead, they're going to spend $30 million in lawsuit fees. It would have been a much cheaper thing if you empowered them to understand the reason behind the sheet that you make. There's more to it than just follow the details.
Yeah. Now, I want to reiterate you said if they had told. So, communication to me sounds part of the story or the root cause of these challenges and perhaps why these problems happen. What's your view?
I think we are communicating in the way that we're used to, but communication is not what is said, it's what's understood. And
Hmm.
sometimes we throw out a document with really good intentions. This is the steps we want to clarify what you do when you have a problem on a plane. And we write it out, we thought it all through, and we communicated. But if we don't know the purpose behind it, if we don't know the values that we live, the mojo of which you're supposed to do these things, then they do it mechanically and they do it poorly, but they're following the details. So communication's got to be more than just words. It's got to be the feeling behind it, the thought behind it, the purpose. And so again, it's really hard to communicate that in a document.
Yeah.
Culture is the aggregation of all the experiences that the employees go through and contribute to, and the customers. It's all this combination of everything. And if we have this kind of uptight, follow the rules, do it or you're fired kind of mentality, then we're going to get employees who roll that way. But if we are creating a place where people are heard and risk is accepted and they made a decision, then they're empowered to make wise choices. I take my clients through creating a water line to help empower their employees to make good decisions. Because just because you have a mission, vision, and values on the wall doesn't mean they know what they're supposed to do when a weird thing happens. So we create a water line, like a boat sits in the water. Anything above the water line, they can make a decision on their own. Anything below the water line, they need to check with leadership. And we're empowering the employees to make on the spot, really good, smart, engaged decisions. But that's because we provide them with what the water line is built on. And we give them all that data in one sheet so they can make on the spot decisions that are smart and help improve the process of the business and make a better customer experience.
Mm, I love that example. Do you find that when people understand what they're empowered to do and where they have to ask permission, is that improving the accountability, the self
It is.
reliance?
Yeah. Well, don't we want everyone to be leaders, not followers, right? So
Yeah.
as we're building our teams, if we just tell them, go do this, come back and check with me, they're not leading. They're doing tasks, they're followers. And they're not ready to grow and take on more responsibilities. And frankly, I'm tired of babysitting them and having to tell them, no, do this and do that. And so we have to get to a way where we get them to think like us. One of the biggest challenges CEOs have is creating ownership thinking with their employees. They want to, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? It doesn't make sense. In our book, we talk about where a machine broke down that Salem was running a company. He's the co-author of the book, Nobody Cares. And he talks about how the plant was at a standstill until they get this part. Well, the purchasing department ordered a part. And they said, hey, we ordered it. Eight days from now, we'll have it. 8 days, we lose $700,000 a day. Are you going to wait 8 days? If it was your money, would you wait 8 days? No. Well, go back. And then they came back and said, hey, we got it. Another place we can get it in 3 days because they got to ship it. Well, don't you have a car? Why don't you drive and go get it overnight? He was in London and the thing was in Scotland. So they got in their car, they drove 8 hours, they picked up the part and they came back. This machine was online the next day. But we don't think about it like it's our money. It's the owner's money. It's the company's money. If we empower our people to care, it's increasing the give a damn factor. If we can give our people to really care, they'll make a good decision because it's smart, because it's what's best for the company, which is best for them. Because if I'm not making money, I got to lay off people. You're going to be one of the people to go because I clearly see you can't make a decision.
Yeah. I want to pull out what you just mentioned about giving a damn. There's a lot of employees, I want to say staff, because there's interns, there's contractors, it's not all just full-time employees, but giving a damn, that's been hard. People are not showing up fully the way I remember my many years in the company. I mean, you just don't question the rules, but today they do. What's your view on how do you make people give a damn, especially the customer experience? They're paying the bills.
I think it really is. It is a challenge. Part of it is healthy communication. That we don't do that well. But when you're trying to create a culture, you have to do things to create the result you're looking for. And I don't think people are caring less today than they were in the past. I think we're just hearing about it more. There wasn't a social media in the 70s where you could go on and say how much you hate your boss or give examples of people goofing off at work and seeing how they don't care. Nobody
Yeah.
had a phone on their camera to film someone behaving poorly at a checkout stand. So I think the bad behavior has always been around. The challenge I see is for leaders is that you have to have a vision of what you want your business to look like and work backwards. It's just like sales or any other thing we're going to do. And if I look at my life and my business and I say, this is what it should look like, what do I need to put into that to get that outcome? That's what the word culture means. Like if you did in school and you had that little petri dish and you put stuff in it and then you added some things and you put heat and you added light and it was changing as you added things and did things to it, it was creating a culture. And so we want to have a culture where things are developed, but you can't control it. You could add something to it. You could put heat on it. You could do this now, but you're not going to guarantee the results. So you're constantly adjusting and tweaking and learning from things. But it starts with us knowing what we want it to look like. I have a customer in the construction industry who is trying to change the culture of construction. When you think of construction people, you think simple people, work a little bit, drink beer, go home, start over, and they're crass and they're rude. And so this culture has been very racist, very angry. And so in every crappy bathroom, those outhouses that are horrible, there's all these SWAT stickers and racist remarks. And they got sick of it. So they said, okay, we're done with this. We're gonna put air conditioned bathrooms on the site for everyone who goes on that site to work, and they're going to be pristine clean. And the first person who writes anything offensive on it, we're going to haul the thing away, and we're going to get a brand new one, and we're going to charge that cost to the job, and the job will have to pay for that, and that comes out of everybody's
Wow.
wallet. And unless you rat out the guy, and they had like a $10,000 reward for them to rat out the person who wrote the racist remark on the wall. They were that serious about, we will not put up with it. Now, is that one thing with the bathrooms going to change the entire world for these people? No, but it's that plus this plus that. And on and on and on. They're putting into the culture what they hope to see as an outcome. We as leaders have to think this vision and work backwards and then stick with it and adjust and tweak and keep going because it's a lot of work.
That's a very good example. Harsh, yet impactful. And I have to imagine the staff really took it seriously and accountability, especially because it impacted their wallets. How can organizations do this same principle, maybe not as harsh, but how do you do that? How do you measure and track and make accountability happen?
Well, you certainly know when it's not happening, right? You see people saying they're going to do something that doesn't get done. I'm mortified for the lackadaisical attitude that I see in a lot of businesses where they tell employees you're supposed to do this and they don't do it and they go, "Hey, I'm serious. You got to do it." There's no responsibility, there's no accountability to those behaviors, there's no action. One of the very first things we have to teach is that all of your actions have consequences.
Mm.
And in today's world, that's not normal. I can go on Facebook and light you up and say horrible things about you and just be awful and ugly, and nothing happens to me. And I can go talk about my company and spew all kinds of lies and horrible things, and nothing happens to me. And so we've just kind of created this fake era of audacious behavior that people, they're not owning it. The sad part about it is you're creating a world full of victims. Because when I become someone who constantly blames and throws shade on other people, it becomes a lifestyle for me. And it doesn't just stop at that one place, it affects other relationships. It becomes the way I roll. And we're building a whole culture of people who have no problem being horrible to one another because there's no consequences. So I think what we're going to have to do as a company is to set really clear expectations of our people and then evaluate according to that. Hire, fire, promote, praise, let someone go. If they don't want to play well with our team, the way we want to roll, they need to go find another job. But we go, oh, I can't afford to let go of that person. They're the best, this and that, or they know everybody, or hey, they're a protected class. I'll get sued. I mean, then the owner's not being accountable because you're acting like a victim. I can't do anything. Yes, you can. It's your company. It may be hard, but it's your business. You should own it. And I think we've just created this air of victimhood that goes from the top down.
Mm.
And so everyone's doing it. And I think that's why accountability is such a big deal. We're not even seeing the times that we're playing a victim, but we are. And we're creating a culture where everybody doesn't care enough to own anything.
Hmm. I'm going to offer another example of how to drive accountability because I believe what you're saying is just incredibly important and it's something anybody listening can do. And that is listening to your customers, what they're saying, structured, meaning surveys, unstructured, meaning on social media and rating review sites. Take all that feedback and make it part of your meetings with your teams and problem solve. Recognize the people that are mentioned in a positive way and use the opportunity to coach people as well. And I think that that lends itself to showing from the top and driving from the bottom and the middle, the accountability to the customer and to each other.
Yeah, and I think there's sometimes where we just go, well, that's just people venting and we don't take it seriously. It doesn't matter whether they're venting or if it's real or not. It matters that other people are seeing it. And we're having our name be represented in a bad way. And you can't control PR. I mean, no one's brand is ever controlled by the company that owns it. It's
Right.
controlled by the world and what they say about it. And your brand, as much as you want to try and protect it and defend it and articulate it, that's just you talking outward. It's what everyone else says that defines your brand. Ford used to say quality's number one. And their cars were such a piece of junk. And everyone would make jokes about Ford, found on road dead. That was what Ford stood for. And it was, you could have your brand to be anything you want to make it, but at the end of the day, everyone else decides. So if you really want to make it stick, you've got to talk about it a lot. It's like when we raise our kids. Do you tell them how to behave one time and then you walk away? Do you give them a list of directions and put it on their bedroom wall and say, okay, by the time you're out of high school, you got to live like this? You tell them every day, like 100 times, turn the light off, flush the toilet, chew with your mouth closed. I mean, there's a million things that we have to tell them over and over again. If we have to do that to our children, what makes us think it has to do anything different with older people? We're still the same humans. We still don't believe you really mean it because you didn't fire me last time I screwed up. I got away with it, so I'll just keep doing it. I talk awful to these other coworkers and I never get fired for it, so I'll just keep doing it. I abuse the customers. No one ever fires me. There's no consequence for our actions.
Yeah. I think we all need to go back to kindergarten.
I like the milk and cookies better in kindergarten.
Yes. Well, people listening probably are saying, okay, it sounds intuitive. Actions, consequences, drive the accountability, great stories and anecdotes here. Part of me says that when I think about measurements of success, there's obviously the net promoter score, how likely you're going to refer. There's an effort score, how easy or difficult is it to do business with us? And there's many others. I'm thinking there needs to be an accountability score.
Mm,
how much was the staff accountable to fixing your problem? Were they
yeah.
empowered to do so? I think that's a brilliant metric.
If you empower the team to make these decisions, you have to help them be aware of the times when they're going against accountability. Here's the four things that we see where people refuse to be accountable. When something comes up and they're supposed to be accountable, now they're aware, okay, wait, this is my thing. The first thing they do is blame. Well, sales didn't send me this, or the order didn't get entered in properly, or you didn't have this thing. They blame. And if blame doesn't work, then they make excuses. Well, I didn't know. Well, I was really busy that day. That's just another thing to take away the initiative to do anything about it, because it's not my problem. It's that guy's problem. And this is the reason. And when we hear those things, we're like, oh yeah, that's right. That's not fair. And we understand it. So we support them, and then they just keep doing it. If the blame and excuse don't work, then they say, well, I can't do that. I'm not empowered to do that. I've never been trained. And the reason is, a lot of times you say you can't, but you really mean you won't. And then at the end of the day, if it doesn't, all those things don't stop us from having to own it, we just go, well, I'll just wait and see if it clears up. And waiting and hoping never makes it better. And at some point, you in your life or you in your business go, wait, nobody cares unless I care enough to do something about it first. And when you create this mindset of ownership in the team where everyone says, anytime they're about to make an excuse, blame, say you can't, or wait and hope, they go, wait. Nobody cares. I got to do something about this. This is me. I got to own it. That's the beginning of accountability. And it's that awareness. And so if we learn the vocabulary and we teach it to our teams, don't blame, don't make excuses, don't say you can't, and don't wait and hope. When something comes up, you own it and you work until it till it's done. Now, the journey after that point, once you own it, is tough, but it's also tough to be a victim. Don't you hate working at a company where everyone's always yelling at you and everything's always stressful? I wouldn't want to work there. Let's figure out a way to own it and make it better so we don't have these problems. Makes work more fun. But those are ways you can tell if people aren't being accountable by just those warning signs.
I want to add one more. Just naturally, I tell this to my kids, my older kids now, and that is the word try. When I hear them say, I'm going to try something or I'll try to do this today, I'm like, there's no trying, there's just doing.
Yeah, Yoda said it best. No try, only do.
Yeah. And that's why this is the Doing CX Right show, not the trying show.
And what does try do? It allows you an out. Try, hey, I tried, it didn't work. And we don't need more excuses or reasons to be able to keep us from accomplishing our goals. We need to have that spirit of, I will own it until it's done.
Yeah. Well, I do want to acknowledge the fact that accountability challenge does come from silos. And every company I've been in over a very long time, silos is everywhere. And the bigger the company, the more it exists. So, what do you do about that? That's like trying to go against gravity.
Well, again, this comes back to the leadership of the company. If you're the owner of the company or the CEO, you have to be doing things to unify and empower your teams.
Yeah.
And silos just make it where we don't own it. It's not my fault. Sales gave me bad leads. It's not my fault. Marketing didn't communicate what we had here. And there was no inventory. And we always constantly are able to blame other people in the company. But if it's our problem, we
Yeah.
all own it together. We don't have silos. It doesn't work that way. In the world, it doesn't work that way. And we have to be able to talk and unify and have experiences. I mean, people pay me to come work with their teams for a day, once a quarter, to go unify and break down the walls and talk about the challenges we have as an organization so we don't have silos.
Yeah.
But I only have 8 customers that are doing that. There's millions of companies out there who aren't hiring anybody to help them get better at unifying and breaking down the walls. So it's up to the CEO, not the HR manager. It's up to the CEO to set the tone, to bring those moments together, to create the cadence of conversation and discussion so that we unify around a very compelling and clear vision of what we want to be known as.
Yeah. Well, I relate. I do the same thing, going to companies and helping them really break down the customer journey and the staff journey. and helping people see the domino effect of where one rule begins and ends because they are pointing fingers at each other when
Yeah.
something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So I love this whole concept of accountability without excuses and making people give a damn.
Yeah. Yeah. That's our goal.
Yes. Well, as we're at the end, rapid fire questions here. What is your one takeaway for people to remember and go do?
I think if I was to encourage anybody, it would be getting focused and find accountability in your life. Back to what you asked me earlier, what would I tell my younger self? Know your purpose. I didn't have a focus. And I think most business owners, they made a cool widget and a lot of people wanted it. So they made more. And then they had so much they had to hire people. And then it grew. And next thing you know, you got a bunch of employees and a bunch of problems. And you're not good at that. You just were good at making a widget. But if you're a business owner, you have to know everything about cybersecurity, HR law, inventory control, cash flow. What does the bank expect? Running a building, buying property, doing your taxes, all that stuff you're supposed to be an expert at, or at least know enough to not get screwed. And it's hard. So we have to build teams that we can allow them to step in and bring their expertise to it. But that transfer of responsibility only works when you have a very clear vision of what we're doing and how and why. And if you don't own that, there's no way your employees are going to know that. And so I would say go back and really get back to your purpose. Your purpose creates a vision. Your vision builds a passion that causes you to act intentionally, and you have discipline. And through that process, we are doing the right things all the time. But that starts with purpose. And then once you know your purpose, find accountability. Whether it's a CEO peer group or just business owners that you come together with and you meet with on a regular cadence, where you are radically transparent and radically open minded. Because if you're not being honest and talking about your problems, nobody can help you. I
Mm,
think that's where the real power of accountability comes. There's freedom and power and wisdom in accountability. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. It sets you free, give you the life you really want to pursue.
yes. And with that said, for those listening, you have to make it a psychologically safe environment because otherwise, no one will share their problems and feel
Yeah,
safe.
right.
So they do go together.
Well, that comes back down to vulnerability. If you can't be vulnerable, you can never have accountability. Because when it's not safe to be real, I don't really know what's going on. And if I worry that if I bring up some truth that I'm gonna get fired, ostracized, picked on, whatever the word is, I'm not gonna say anything. I'll show up and do the bare minimum. That's responsibility. But if we want people to be accountable, we have to free them up by creating a place where it's okay to take a risk. It's okay to say what's there and be honest about it. Leaders don't want that because there's a lot of insecurities that someone might find out they don't know what they do that they're doing, because in a lot of cases we don't know what we're doing. But
Yeah.
that's why we hire people, because they know what they're doing. We just got to let them do it. And that comes back down to us having clarity of purpose and vision and all those things being aligned.
Well, thank you for sharing your wisdom today. Loved every minute. And I will include all the different ways to reach you and your content in the show notes. And again, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I've got a domain for anybody who wants to go and fill out a contact form at nobodycarespod.com. If they use the code word customer experience, I will mail a copy of my book for free to them if they want to read it. If they're really going to read it, I'll
Yeah.
mail it to them. But that way you can know who's listening to your show, and I'll send you a copy of it and you can follow up with them. And we want to have a community of people who are wanting to be accountable. So I'm happy to mail out 2 copies of the book.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.